Hey everybody, Speedy here with the Saga series to continue sharing updates on the studio and to have these happen every Saturday. And as you know, I started a new fresh series that's been on hold because I've been kind of going through a crisis. And I thought it's finally time to kind of speak on it. Now, ordinarily, I do my best to just, you know, tell my stories, let myself randomly, just kind of talk and tell what's going on without ever scripting. I believe in authenticity. But what I have to share right now is, well, it would be too long-winded to share the entirety of the story, so I wrote an abridgment, and this will be the only time in my studio that I will script anything. I tend to talk directly because I want to be authentic. I sometimes have a bit of a stutter or a struggle with some words, but I just leave those in there typically. But this is such a heavy subject that and such a deep subject, I felt like to keep it short, concise, and to the true point of the story, I would go ahead and script it. So as I said, I'm going to be reading from a script I wrote. Um, it's been a challenging time for me. I had to be on medical leave. As I had mentioned before in a previous video, I have RA. I have it acutely. It's most impacted by stress, but that would usually just be minor inflammation um, or extremes in temperature. I had a perfect storm scenario where I had been dealing with 3 years of stress that I had not alchemized. It was too challenging to alchemize. I have to be honest. I have found a path to alchemize it, and part of that process is just finally speaking the truth about what I've experienced. So let me begin. Um, this actually started, the health crisis part started on May 22nd, and it definitely derailed and slowed down my studio and it jeopardized it. We had an extreme storm that had blown through, but also, as I'd mentioned, I had already been under a tremendous amount of emotional distress. And the two came together to literally cause a super flare, which is something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Was unexpected. So, anyway, let me just get to the script part. This is the only video I will ever script. I'm doing it because I want to stay steady, stay clear, and stay within the boundaries that protect my work and my well being. My story doesn't begin here. It began when I was 7 years old. I was training in Europe. I had a math teacher who was my first mentor. He was a watercolor painter and part of the Audubon Society. And so I began at the age of 7 under the traditional Western tutelage in the fine arts. Um, on and off throughout my time in Europe, I grew up in studios, ateliers, and workshops, carrying things, cleaning brushes, listening to conversations I was way too young to understand, but absorbing everything. By the time I was 10, I already knew my calling. I understood that the creative path was not just something I loved, it was the axis of my entire life would turn on. And like my hero Michelangelo, I also understood that I might have to walk that path alone. Not out of tragedy, understand, but out of complete devotion. This is very emotional for me. Sorry, guys. In my adult years, I did try to balance personal life with my first and eternal love, the creative path. But anyone who has ever lived this life knows how difficult that balance is. Most people simply can't hold both. And eventually, I realized that my deepest loyalty was to the work itself. So I stayed receptive, but I chose a celibate life of abstinence, which I began in 2010. So I've been on that journey for 16 years. But not as denial, but as devotion. I redirected all my energy, emotional, physical, and creative, into the studio, into the craft, but I had to get in a position to be able to build it. 2 years ago, I got myself in a position to actually make it real. And so I began that journey, and that's what the video, the Odyssey series was about me building it. And the Saga series is essentially about me putting it to task, putting it to use, and going towards my calling. So I redirected all of my energy, emotional, physical, and creative, into this studio and into the craft and into the long arc of mastery. This past season tested that devotion in ways I never expected. A perfect storm of prolonged stress, harsh weather, and emotional strain triggered the most severe RA flare I've had since my 20s. It hit right as I was pushing forward with the studio, and it nearly stopped everything. At the same time, something personal was distorted. I expressed interest in someone who intrigued me, and when I refused an inappropriate offer, the situation was twisted. A narrative was created that didn't reflect the truth, and that narrative spread. Living with a chronic illness is difficult enough. Living with misrepresentation layered on top of it has been something else entirely. I want to be clear. I have told the truth the entire time, but I've learned sometimes people prefer the easier story even when it isn't accurate. Recently, I referenced Cassandra, not as drama, but as a reminder that this pattern is ancient. If you watch any retelling of Cassandra and the destruction of Troy, you'll see it clearly. The tendency to ignore the truth in favor of a more comfortable lie. That myth is nearly 3,000 years old, and yet the psychology behind it is still alive today. For a lifelong seeker of gnosis, this was not a form of knowledge I ever hoped to gain. But now I understand how she must have felt. Even so, I'm still here, I'm still creating, I'm still committed to my path. For years, I've walked a disciplined life, one rooted in stoic practice, Jungian alchemy, and the redirection of my energy into my work. That path hasn't changed. If anything, the storm has clarified why I chose it. I cannot control what others say or believe. I can only control what I build. And I will continue to build. And I will continue to create. And I will continue to transforming every challenge, including this one, into fuel for the work. Thank you to those who have supported me, believed in me, and stayed with me through this storm. The studio continues, a bit slower for now, but it will be stronger in the long run. That's what I scripted. Yeah, I got a little frog in my voice. It's been probably the most challenging thing I've ever been through, and I've experienced some very extreme, dark sides of humanity: war, conflict, riots, too many to list. Part of being an artist and trained so young, because I'm unscripted now, y'all, but part of being trained at a young age in the traditional arts is about tutelage. And that's something that America doesn't do because we disconnected ourselves from the traditional Western arts around 1910. It still somewhat goes on, but it's not the main focus anymore. And that's sad. And so it was one of the things that I was slowly architecting into my studio and will eventually be developed. Now, as to the story of Cassandra, I really do know how she feels now. People project onto me. Now that I'm used to. Um, People misunderstand the thing about being trained this young and it being the whole consuming focus of your life is you become an exceptional reader of human psychology, body language. I get lied to every day. I don't tell people to their face all the time that they're lying because, it's pointless. They usually deny it. Most people are in denial and lie to themselves, so, I mean, naturally, they're gonna lie to you. Um, and so I'm, to a certain level, adjusted to it. But I can't say that I've ever been in Cassandra's shoes until this last 3 years, where, like I said, people project things onto you, and people that, you know, have a lower maturity level react in immature ways, and, I did not expect that. I will process this gnosis. I will process this negative experience through the ways that I've always alchemized. It's just that this was one of those situations that it happens every day. I'm confronted with it every day. And I know that I will be confronted with it every day for as long as I'm where I'm at. This is all part of my life outside the studio. Um, my method for doing it is to do a painting series, um, to purge it from myself. And I find it very interesting that Chris Nolan is shitting all over the Odyssey, which has a connection to Cassandra's story and the destruction of Troy. And I find myself literally in one of the characters' shoes for the last 3 years. So it did inspire me while I was on medical leave to write and create something. Um, and that's one of the ways that I'm going to alchemize it. But I have to say this, the main thing I learned from going through this whole Cassandra syndrome situation is a 3,000-year-old myth founded in true human psychological fact that's still occurring today is all the proof I need. It's all the proof I need that we can have all the toys and the cell phones and we can go to the moon and back and we can go to Mars and we can have all these rockets and we can do all these great things and we can blow things up from 3D, 10 million miles away. And we tell ourselves we're advanced and we tell ourselves the masters of the planet. And I can tell you right now from my own experience, that's absolutely not true. How can we declare ourselves masters of anything when we haven't mastered ourselves? And we're still behaving the same way people 3,000 years ago did. Our tools have evolved. We have not. That's what I've learned from this experience. Now, I will say this, I will continue on my path. I will not be closed off to the idea that I may have a counterpart, a true partner, but I will continue to approach it the way I have since 2010, which is my first love's always going to be my creative path. It's something that was taught to me at the youngest age. It's something I have a natural talent for. It's something I put a lot of work and research into, and passion and love. And I put all my sacral energy into it. I put all my solar energy into it. I put all my mind and my heart into it. And I'm going to continue to do that. And perhaps I may. I'm still going to be open. Perhaps I may run into a counterpart who has individuated, has gone through the alchemical marriage with themselves, and has unified the masculine and feminine aspects. Yes, we have both inside of each individual, has both. Mastering them is a part of evolving as a human. And so, if I'm going to be the proper shamanic transmitter of human truth through my art, that was a journey I had to undertake to be authentic and true to my craft. And I'm going to continue to do that. But I may find somebody who's actually intrigues my mind and has gone through that process as well. And so I'm still going to be receptive and open despite how negative and how bad this experience was. I'm not going to hold it against the future because I'm an emotionally evolved person. Like I said, I do think that would be pretty cool because I have to admit something. An individuated, alchemically married artist can do some astounding work. But I have this belief, this theory, that if I meet a counterpart, a proper mirror, that union can take the arts the creative expression to its highest, to its fullest power. I believe that this is something you find in ancient Indus Valley cultures. And you find it in Angkor Wat, under Ashoka, these, these places where tantric was practiced. Now, the West sees that as a perverted practice, and the West perverts that practice, but in its proper use, it's about harnessing the ultimate power of the human being to create the ultimate third expression. It doesn't have to be life. To me, art is life as well. Cinema, creative path, it is life too. Every filmmaker is the parent of their film. Everybody from Michelangelo to Da Vinci is the parent of their paintings. I seek to do the same thing. If I have to do it alone, as most of them did, I have no problem doing that. I'm prepared for that. I've been prepared for that since I was 10 years old. If the opportunity arises that I meet somebody who is evolved and can understand what I am endeavoring to do, and intrigues me, because you still have the natural law aspect of life. There needs to be some intrigue, some attraction. I admit to being more attracted to a person's intellect than anything else. But, I think that comes with being evolved and studying your entire life. Um, so anyway, I just wanted to give this update. My next Saga video, which is going to be coming out on Saturdays from now on, because I'm going to spend all week um, working on that series I released, which is coming from the drafting table. Now, right now, I'm working on the Wolverine montage, and I do have some more to release. I just did not want to release it on the same day I'm releasing my Saga videos. And I intend Sundays to be dedicated to streaming WoW and just having some fun and feeding my inner child. So Monday is when the drafting table series will continue, and after I finish the Wolverine montage, I'm going to begin the process of alchemizing this experience so that I can put it behind me and move into the future and continue to evolve. Much love to everybody who takes the time to watch this, even the ones who hate me. I love them just the same. I don't have any hate towards humanity. I expect it to be what it is. I hope for it to be better. And that's enough for me. That's all I need to do my job as a sacral artist. That's literally all I need to do. And it's natural for me. So anyway, I appreciate everybody who's checked this out. I got to go ahead and get this video uploaded so I can head off to work, and one more day of drama, then I'll be able to get some more work done in the actual studio, get these projects up where people can experience them with me and tell stories. Okay, peace. So, Speedy's out. Have a wonderful day, no matter where you are. And hope everything that you desire that is good and that is healthy is manifest for you. Bye.